Oh, so after refurbishing the Mercedes Superba, I'm now going to focus my attention on the case. You can see I've already removed all the fixings from it at the moment, just to inspect it. And what I can see, similar to the base that I had on my Swisser Piccola, I had these I have the signs of the cracking in the wood underneath on these two sides. And I think what I'd like to do is remove this paper, steam it off or get it off very gently, and get into those cracks and put some wood glue in there and fix them and fill them to try and keep the original board. It's a shame because the paper's not in bad condition, although it's clearly cracking there and giving the edge of this board, I think some of the fabric is ripped off. But again, I think that's just a case of gluing that back in place. But the board underneath is in the condition which you would expect, really. It's got some nicks and scratches, and you can see where that's bubbling up and creasing because of that crack. So it may be that this whole fabric is going to come off, and I try and find something to reline it with, which I think won't be too difficult to do. But because the coronavirus, I can't quite get to a fabric store at the moment. But I think I'm going to work on recovering this baseboard. The actual main case, though, is honestly, it's in reasonably good condition. If we have a look at it, I've cleaned it, although it looks dusty, it isn't. Sort of main parts of the case, as I turn it around, not in bad condition at all. You can see here they just need cleaning up a little bit and polishing. This little area down here, I'm going to run maybe an iron over that very, very gently to get the creases out. And then I'm going to stick that back down onto there, and I think that will actually come up fine. There's just the usual nicks in the corners and things, which you would expect. Inside, it's actually not that bad. There's no cracks. The paper's in quite good condition, as you can see in there. These two pieces here had the remnants of some rubber on them, and I might add a photo to this video. When I took the box off and uncovered the typewriter, around the two ends of the paper bell screws was this molten, rubbery, plasticized, gooey mess, which it would turn solid, and they had basically deteriorated and melted straight on top of the paper bells screws, and that, of course, that was really difficult to get off. I had to scrape, and sadly, I think a slight bit of the plating on that part of the paper bell was scratched off because it was the only way I could get it off. So there's definitely not going to be rubber put on that back on there, but I might put some thick felt as cushions, but I'll clean the rust off that. But the sort of integrity of the case is in pretty good condition. Again, I think these scuffs and things could be touched up easily, but there's no warping and the cracking in this case. And the lock and the handle, I think, are in pretty good condition. I think the strap just needs a little bit of TLC, bring back the suppleness to it, a little bit of leather treatment on it, and I'm sure we could try and improve that. Leatherwork is one of my hobbies anyway, so I'd even have a go at remaking that handle and restitching it, but it's okay, and I think it just needs a bit of TLC on the leather. So I think that's going to come up lovely. Just got to work on the corrosion on the handle sort of parts here. And the lock, that just needs, I mean, that's not bad really, that condition. It's dirty and it needs a polish up, but it works. I think this is a little bit stiff on here, yeah. It needs a little bit of oiling or something to free that up a little bit. Some nicks on it. The corners have got nicks. And amazingly, I have the key for it as well, which is quite rare in a lot of cases. So I'm going to work on cleaning the lock up. I think it polished up, that's going to look lovely. And just, again, a few nicks and things that just need tidying up. But in the whole scheme of things, I think the case is again, in incredible condition. So I'm very happy with that. Just got to tidy it up and maybe try to find some way of polishing it a little bit to get maybe some kind of shine back to it. So that's a kind of before video, and at some point I'll do an after video. I do intend to experiment with this today. In my whole house, in my bag of, you know, sort of fabric scraps, this is the only black fabric that I have, this one piece. I basically got rid of an old motorcycle jacket I stripped everything on it, all the linings, the pockets, zips, anything I could repurpose and rescue off this jacket, I did. And I've used, you can see over here, excuse Teddy, I used part of the cover there to make a cover for my Model 32, a dust cover. So I'm going to experiment by cutting a few pieces of this and seeing if I can layer it over some of these nicks and scratches. I think this bottom half has probably got the worst. And I just want to see if, maybe on that corner I'll try it, if sticking some fabric on with some glue, will it hold? You know, will it patch that up? I'm really curious to see that. So I'm going to tidy up all that corner, and maybe that's the first bit I'll do, and I'll have to use this fabric sparingly. I would have liked something, this is quite shiny, and I would have liked something with a bit more texture, like linen style, but still it's quite strong, and I'll see how that turns out. Okay, I hope you find that interesting in my case restoration project now. So here's my first attempt at creating a kind of band out of that piece of old material. This was that wrinkled bit which I used an iron on to just gently smooth it out, and I've glued that section up to there. It was really quite bad. And what I've done is I've cut up some strips of this fabric, and I'm using, well, it's called Holz lime, but it's basically like PVA glue, and although it's for wood, which I've used to infill some of the slight cracks in there, you can see it says Bastelarbeit, Holz, Karton, which is wood, cardboard or felt, so it can be used for this kind of thing. And I think it's really good stuff actually. It's very strong, and it dries transparent. So here, this is just, you can see there was a really tatty strip, so this is my first layer of putting a strip across there, and then another piece to go over there for that corner, just to reinforce it. And now I'm going to do the same on this corner here, because it's really dry, flaky bits, and I'm probably going to, I don't know if I should extend it as far as there, but I might. I don't have enough, so I'm going to certainly focus on this corner first and wrap that up basically to protect that corner. So you can see here my little dish. Use an old beer can as a tray, and I'm just plonking the glue in there, pasting it on there, and quite, not too thick, but then layering it on and just wrapping it around. So I don't know if it'll work, but honestly, whatever happens, it's going to look tidier than that, isn't it? So I shall update you as I go along. Thank you. So here we are, pretty much finished the refurbishment of this top half of the case. So I thought I'd show you how it turned out. As you can see, the polishing of the lock system came up really nice using a Dremel. Very neat. And I've just put a little bit of leather treatment on the handle, but it's all nice and shiny now, the case. I've used a kind of shoe polish sponge thing. Actually, I have it here. It's just one of these spongy things. Nothing too much, just enough to give it a glance, a bit of shine. It smells lovely. I've also put a little bit of spray of, it's called, well, it's kind of shoe protector spray, but it's also for textiles as well. And yeah, I think it's come up really nice. Every little nick around the edge that was missing some fabric, I've put little patches on. I think there's a tiny little patch. Oh, you might, there, just, you can see it there in the light. Barely noticeable. Same on the other side. These corners, you may not notice it, but there's a tiny little patch on those as well, and on the other side as well. Polished up the studs on the bottom. These two big pieces at the back that were really messed up, I'm really impressed with how strong that fabric was. Glued down, it dried really quickly, and it is like a patch, a fabric patch, but it's really strong, and it's held on quite well there. Sure, it's oops, the focus. It's that's light reflecting on the top there because it's actually all black, but you can barely notice it, and I think you can see I'm really impressed with how that has come down. That probably could stick, that edge could, oh, that's one of the little frayed pieces that comes off. Let's see, could probably rub that down a little bit more. God, I can't focus one-handed, this is rubbish. And you can see on the other side, again, they were two quite hefty patches. Come on, focus, ink on my hands. Again, this camera is so fine, it picks everything up, so it doesn't look as tidy as in real life. It looks a little bit tidier. And there's a long patch along the back here. Again, you just about notice where I filled it in there. This patch was really needed because it was quite scuffed, and I had enough fabric to fold it over and tuck it up underneath, because this is the part that fits on the back of the typewriter, so I can imagine that getting scuffed quite a bit more in the future. So overall, again, I'm very happy with how this case has turned out. I think it looks really tidy. It's nice and clean, it smells lovely, and I just need to add a little bit of foam to the inside of that box to protect it when it's on. Definitely not foam. I'm not going to use foam, I'm going to use felt, like a little felt buffer. So the next thing I've got to do is work on that bottom piece, but this was the cosmetic bit on the top, and I'm very pleased with how that's come out. So I hope that helps somebody if you're thinking of doing something similar.